I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on social media as a whole.
Oh yeah.
Um, I'm ready. I want to hear it.
I love social media. I think it is a great way to disseminate information quickly and get people's attention on a cause and a movement. We've seen that happen over the last 15 years or so with like the dawning of Twitter, right? That was like the big boom of information being shared with masses of people globally.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
So I'm really excited here to have my guest, Nikki Lee-Rogers. Nikki Lee-Rogers is the founder of Solace Chateau, a mental health wellness practice located in New Orleans. She's been a licensed psychotherapist for over 18 years in Arkansas and Louisiana, is currently a psychology doctoral candidate in human and organizational psychology. Nikki's vision is to promote quality mental health care for the public that is effective and easily accessible, while providing strong professional support to pre-licensed clinicians and to bring peace to those struggling with emotional distress. Nikki, thank you for being here today.
I'm honored to be here, Cannon. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Well, tell me a bit about Solace Chateau, but maybe start with your background getting into the field you're currently in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my background is I have a marriage and family therapy degree in addition to psychology, and became licensed in Arkansas first, and then came back to my home state of Louisiana 11 years ago, which it's amazing how time flies. But I have distinctions as far as family and divorce mediation. I do licensure supervision for the state of Louisiana, and I also do nutritional wellness as a certified integrated mental health professional.
Got it. Cool. Tell me about Solace Chateau and your founding with this business.
Absolutely. So I founded Sala Chateau 12 years ago out of just wanting to create a space where mental health providers were treated in a more fair positioning. A lot of the agencies that I worked for previously were great agencies, but they were very profit focused and they were not person focused. And so my creation of Sala Chateau was really about creating an environment where supervision can happen, but in a humanistic way, as opposed to what can you produce for the company. Even though they were great entities that I worked with in the past, I just saw a way to kind of be more about the people as opposed to just money.
Could you tell me a bit more about that with being more about the people? Who are the people that you help?
Yeah. So when I first started working many years ago as a case manager, one of the things that I noticed pretty quickly was that the agency that I worked for had a stipulation that we had to work 30 hours a week direct contact. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you are traveling to do home visits with children and families, you have to factor in that to your day. So we were working 12, 13, sometimes 16-hour days because of travel to get to clients in order to meet that goal. And there was some challenge around that where we would bring issues to our leadership to say, hey, can we, deal with some of these safety issues or, the fact that we're going into some of these homes, and they would train us about those things. The challenge is that they would say, you have to do it, right? And as a mental health provider, that is a high number of hours, direct client contact hours. And so we started forming a union at that time to kind of help give us a voice to say, hey, we understand that, productivity is a necessity for the business, but there is a humanistic component that we have to acknowledge here, and 30 hours is excessive. And we were effective with that. We were able to get them to reduce it to 25, which was more manageable for people, because you have notes, you have team meetings, you have supervision consultations that have to happen in the midst of that 30 hours direct client contact. And it just wasn't realistic. We were working, obviously, 60-hour weeks, and that's not sustainable long term for people.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like from the business perspective, like they would obviously they have the best intentions at heart.
Yes.
With helping the clients and making sure that y'all stay accountable. But
Right.
as you're seeing and verbalizing to them, like that's just unreasonable, because there's so much more that goes into it. Like you said, traveling, and then that starts putting like y'all in a dangerous position with overworking, and then now your future clients aren't getting your full attention because you're just so exhausted, and it's just this chain reaction effect. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that they reduced that a bit.
Yeah, they did. It was a much welcome change.
Yeah. So with Sala Chateau right now, tell me about the day to day, and like I know I mentioned in the intro, like kind of your vision of the mission and vision, but I want to hear more from you.
Sure. So, what we do here is that we're very diligent about checking in with our team members to talk through certain challenges that they may face in terms of quality service delivery to the clients that they're seeing. So, of course, we go over clinical components for them to try to help them learn and grow and develop themselves professionally. But we also encourage them to take time off for themselves. So, if I see a schedule that is 7 clients in one day, I'm going to pull that person aside to say, okay, what's going on here? Because you've had several days in one week like this. What's happening that you are working this hard, right? Because we try to keep schedules around 6 people a day, so that there's an hour break in between. So 3 in the morning, 3 afternoon, evening time. If you believe you can handle more than that, that's great. We'll encourage it, but we also try to limit those longer days, and that's born out of my experience as a clinician over time of building a private practice, and working at other entities where I was working 16-hour days, because I had clients that I would see privately after being at work all day, and it's just not a quality life. And so we really encourage team members, and myself included. Even as a business owner, I still have to make sure that I'm taking time for myself and walking away from certain tasks, because there's always going to be something to do. The thing is that you have to really train yourself and be diligent around the boundaries you set with your business, and also service delivery. And so we really do emphasize that here, to make sure that people are well themselves, because if you're well, then you can do better for others.
Yeah, I like that. Like you have a pulse on your business, and you keep that pulse and make sure that like everything's healthy and running smoothly, and that's your role in the
Yeah,
organization, to make sure
absolutely.
that they stay healthy as they're helping their clients also stay healthy.
Absolutely.
Other than that, like what are some other differentiators between Solace Chateau and other clinics in that space?
Yeah, we operate in a space of integrity. So we are really diligent about ensuring that the people that we bring on are honest and forthcoming about issues that arise. So we're very diligent about the feedback loops. We want to hear from you. We want to understand where you are, what you're encountering, so that we can remedy the situation. If you are working in such an isolated position that you are dealing with a problem that you feel like you can't solve, and you're having difficulties with that repeated problem coming up, you will be less likely to remain in the space, in the system, because it's not working for you, right? And it breeds resentment, it breeds burnout, where I'm just exhausted. I mean, how many people have woken up in the morning and say, I dread going into work every day. That is not a good feeling. And so that work, that positioning can definitely come through in the type of psychotherapy that you are providing to clients that you see that are looking to you for help and guidance and support. And it's not as quality as it could be if you are not taking care of yourself in the process. And so I think one of the things that really, I emphasize with team members is you have to be forthcoming about where you are, like being honest with yourself so you can be honest with those around you, because your honesty, even if it may be uncomfortable for those near, it's necessary to get it out so that we can remedy the situation. We can't fix a problem we know nothing about.
Do you find it easier or more difficult working with clinicians who are kind of in that position to help others? Do you find it more difficult or easier, maybe at different stages, as opposed to just normal clientele?
Yeah, that's a great question, Cannon. What I've seen is that a lot of young clinicians, like straight out of their graduate programs, they have this really interesting perspective on what therapy is and how it should look. And I always appreciate a fresh perspective. I do. And getting them to understand, taking how they can marry that fresh perspective into what is happening and what has happened, because historically you have to acknowledge history in order to really move forward. And younger clinicians, I think, have like this fire in them of, I've seen this on TikTok, or I've seen this in a movie or a TV show, and I want to replicate this. And there are some things that are shown on social media platforms, TV, movie, media, that have some accuracy of what therapy looks like or can look like. But I often have to, I'm saying often, but there are times that I have to rein certain ideas in because it's not as effective. You get lost in like movie magic, and that's not reality. And so kind of reminding them of that. For the older clinicians, their experiences shape a lot of how they interact with clients and how they conduct themselves in the professional spaces. And there are times that certain things have to be reined in with them as well, but it's situational. And so I tell people all the time, there is no hard and fast right or wrong necessarily, is that you treat each thing as it comes, as a situational based on the context it's framed in.
Okay. Yeah. As the owner, you do have to remain flexible with these different, the different people in your organization. Everyone has different experiences, different stages in their career journey, and so that takes a lot of flexibility on your end to be able to effectively communicate with these different types of people across the board. So
it does. Absolutely.
Cool lessons you've learned there.
Yeah.
I know that within reason you might not be able to share too much of this, but I'm curious about any really cool stories that you've seen, whether that's with clientele or clinicians that you've worked with through the 12 years with Solace Chateau, or even before. Just any fun success stories I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. So, I have helped to license well over 15 clinicians in this time frame, and that does not sound like a lot, but the licensure process is a minimum of 2 years, a maximum of 6. It used to be a maximum of 7. So you think about the process, the time that it takes to gain hours towards the requirements that the state imposes for licensure. And so I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud of the clinicians that have done supervision with me and have gone on to their own professionalisms. They are, professors at universities. Some of them are in private practice. Some of them are in other group practices. Some of them are working with government agencies. And so I take a good amount of pride in that because I think that the work that we did together definitely enhanced where they are today. As far as clients concerned, we have had some really good success stories. We've had some stories that are not as, like, they're in process, I'll say. But some success stories that we've had, we had a client that was dealing with agoraphobia. And agoraphobia is, fear of public spaces, fear of being harmed outside of their safe space, which oftentimes is their home. And this person is now, doing salsa lessons and going for bike rides outside and visiting family, because that was something that they were not doing at one point. They were completely insular in their home, afraid to go out of the front door. And the work that we did together helped them to kind of live their life in a much more open, unafraid space. Another success story was a couple that we worked with that had an infidelity in the couple. And they have, at the time, they were not parents, but now they are parents. They were able to work through their differences and the hurt from the betrayal of an infidelity. And they were able to produce a child. And they are in a much, much healthier and better space with each other because of the time that we spent. And it's something that's what we do. That's why we're doing what we do, is to really help people live more enhanced lives that they choose and they truly enjoy.
Man, that's got to feel good looking at those stories and
Yes.
and remembering that, yeah, this is why that we do
Yeah.
what we do.
Absolutely.
Cool. Appreciate you sharing that with me. I'd like to pivot a little bit into. I didn't share this with you earlier, but I'm super, super interested in systematizing and processing. I try to be a very organized individual, and
Yeah.
I know that as business owners, like, there are very important things to systematize and get organized so that the business can run smoothly. I'd love to hear any of your insights with, like, how you go about operating and any secrets that you've learned with owning that business in that way.
Sure. And failures that I have experienced, right?
I'll hear those. I want to hear those too.
Thank you for that question, Cannon. So one thing that we did, we've been using an electronic health record probably from the very beginning. We enhanced the electronic health system that we use probably right before the pandemic, so 2018. I find that is a very necessary thing for a health practice to have because of its communicative properties with clients, with staff, and documentation. Because one thing that I often push in supervision with supervisees is, if you don't write it down, it didn't happen, right? Because we bill insurance for some of our services, you have to provide documentation to them. And so you have to make sure that you're accurately reflecting what occurred, what you did, what occurred, how things were ended. And it also keeps you accountable for where you left off whenever you pick back up with that particular person. And working to integrate an electronic health record with the business side of things, like QuickBooks. There have been failures along the way with that. But I think we found a bit of a sweet spot here presently, where I have, and this is more of a manual thing because of the confidentiality and HIPAA laws that we have to follow for privacy. Our electronic health record only reports so much in terms of connecting one electronic itself to other external entities. I'm sure you may have heard about the Change Healthcare breach that happened in February with United Healthcare. Those types of things is what, we look to try to avoid as much as possible. But I do have to keep up with metrics in order to understand how well we're doing month to month versus, what changes may need to be made or what we need to continue. I found that making sure that I have enough time to sit and do the manual transfer for certain things in terms of the revenues, the client counts, to make sure that we're keeping accurate record of where things are so that I can make decisions on hiring, or if somebody decides to move on and go to work for a government agency because, they are going to pay off student loans, we're able to figure out, do we need to replace that person or do we absorb the client load, right? And so really making sure that our systems are talking with each other in the midst of including like the human component of, we have to kind of manually make them talk with each other. That's been a big piece of what we do and how I've done things over time. It has had its challenges, believe me, because having a full caseload does prevent talking about those long days where I'm having to, see less people because I have more administrative tasks to take care of. So that's been, I think, probably one of the more midpoint between success failure areas, because there are times where I'm heavy on clients and then there are times I have to back off on that and do more administrative tasks. And that's in and on the business, right? Working in the business versus on the business. And that's kind of like a struggle area.
And just to reiterate, there are things that you've automated and templatized and just made it easy for yourself, but there are very crucial aspects of the business that cannot be because of HIPAA primarily.
Yep.
Because of the privacy. Okay, yeah, that's such an interesting position to be in. I know that as business owners, the general consensus is automate everything, like relieve yourself of the duty, and the career that you're in requires the human element, which I'm sure there have been times have introduced some of those errors into the process because of the human element, but it's required. And so
we have to work around it as best as we can. I mean, just being diligent with checking like between 2 points. So, the copy paste thing, if you're going to keep like a Excel spreadsheet, for example, because that's one of the main ways that I transfer information. So I have like a coding system to keep client names and client information confidential in our health record, and anything that is pulled from our electronic health record goes into that Excel spreadsheet as a code, not as a name, if that makes sense, to then be moved into like a QuickBooks or a CRM that we may be using for. But the beauty of our electronic health record is that it has a workflow in it, and it also has a communicative, so we don't have to use any external system to send reminders via email or text. It doesn't call, it doesn't have like a phone feature,
Mm-hmm.
but we store all of that information and it is very locked down. So I can appreciate that part.
you make it as convenient as possible.
Yes.
For those working in the system.
Yes.
By restrictions placed on you by governing bodies,
Yes.
but you still find the workarounds that you can do to make the system run as smooth as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of creative work would have had to have gone into that, and so it's cool that you have that.
Yeah, thanks.
Kind of moving on, I'm curious with your personal takes as well as practically playing out with Solace Chateau, how you go about it in your marketing efforts, and more broadly how you have others learn about the business.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. What I'm looking to do is really do more platform speaking like this, to promote what we do and how we do it that separates us. And here's the thing. I don't want to make us so different from other, entities, because I love the fact that people have a choice. And I tell team members, I also talk with clients, like if at any point this is no longer working for you, I'm happy to provide resources for you to find something that best is, because our genuine drive and goal is your satisfaction, right? In terms of what's happening. And if we can make adjustments to make you more satisfied with what is occurring, we're going to do that within reason, obviously. And so doing more speaking, I think, is going to be a really good, in my personal opinion, a way to kind of get us out there a little bit more. I have fought over the years, Cannon. I have not wanted to be the face of my company. I have not. But I recognize that there is a necessity to have me explain to people that is not just written. I mean, our website provides a lot of information, but the human element is something that people relate to more. And I recognize that more and more. While it isn't my favorite thing, I like to more so be one-on-one and not necessarily do public speaking. I just recognize its value and getting people to know who we are and what we do and how we do it, so they are knowledgeable and can make the choice to invest if they so choose.
Yeah, I relate a lot to that.
Yeah.
With my background, I help entrepreneurs establish their online presence and their brand, and so that requires a lot of video, a lot of content.
Yes.
And so I'm through my career, for the 10, 12 years longer that I've been doing this, I'm the one behind the camera. I'm the one who's like guiding and helping, and like that brings me joy. But I, in the past few years, have also kind of come to the realization, like, if I wanted to take this beyond just becoming a freelancer and into an actual like business, like operating a business, then to your exact point, this business needs a face. It needs a human for people to get connected and attached to. And so, along with like some really strong pushing from mentors, like do content, do a podcast, like this is like, but what I've seen is this is a really good blend. What you and I are doing right now is a really good blend between keeping that human element involved at the center, but using the digital tools to supplement that and to push it out further. So I've come to really enjoy this, like, and really like enjoy being able to just have conversations with people that I wouldn't normally get to have conversations with. So
Yeah.
it's been a real pleasure for me.
Nice.
Getting out of my comfort zone this way too.
Yeah. It is a challenge to push yourself beyond your boundaries, because I mean, for so long I've been a therapist in a room with a chair, with a couch, the the staples that you think of when you think of a therapist, and branching out of that to get out of that room and more into the public spaces to be seen and viewed. And I have my hinder and benefit battles about social media, just because of I see how people are using it. And I think what drives me, or at least what I would like to accomplish at some point, and more so saying that this is in process, is to structure something that is ethically accurate, and not operate in such absolutes. Because in so many social media spaces, you see people who are, this is always this way, this is never this way, and no one's taking the time to verify the information that they're saying. Where are you getting it from? Who are your sources? And what I'm recognizing is that I have a unique ability to figure what truth is, and I have a pretty good orator position to share that and update myself. Hey, I did say this at this time, but I've learned new information. Let me share it with you. And I find that in doing that with supervision, some things are not relevant after a certain point in time. It may have been at one time a couple years ago, but we're now here and it's not as relevant. Can't speak today. And so just making sure that things are updated so that people are current. And I think that's the value and part of the integrity piece that I really want to represent in these types of spaces and doing speaking.
Yeah, and I know that future, like these newer generations are really like hungering for that integrity, and it is, with how much content is on in the space, it's hard to at first glance know where's this person coming from. That then requires a lot of trust, and it's just this it's a lot. And I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on social media as a whole.
Oh yeah.
I'm ready. I want to hear it.
I love social media. I think it is a great way to disseminate information quickly and get people's attention on a cause and a movement. We've seen that happen over the last 15 years or so with like the dawning of Twitter, right? That was like the big boom of information being shared with masses of people globally. Where I think we have become ethically questionable is how artificial intelligence has infiltrated social media spaces. So I have seen videos, I have seen writings that are completely AI generated and using people's likeness. And that to me is the unethical part of it because consent is a massive part of the work that we do. And I believe consent is something that needs to be universal, especially in social media spaces. Because if you take my voice, my video, and put it into an AI system and have me speaking on a topic that I am completely unknowledgeable about, like a car engine. I don't know much about a car engine other than it needs gasoline and oil to run and a battery, right? And if I'm saying, spark plugs and a radiator, and I'm talking about all these different parts, but I have no knowledge truly of that. But you look at it and say, oh, that's Nikki talking about a car engine. Well, who's going to verify that? I'm not a mechanic. I'm only just speaking on the limited knowledge that I may have picked up over time. I'm no expert. And my likeness being used without my knowledge, without my consent, who's going to be the governing part? And I don't like to use governing necessarily because there's a connotation to that that's pretty negative. Right. But how do you monitor that? How do you manage that type of thing from happening? And it is happening. And that's a concern because information is important to be shared and communicated with people. People need to know things. But the accuracy of the information, whether or not the person disseminating the information has consented to it being disseminated, there's a lot of checks and balances that I don't think happen in the social media spaces in today's age. 15 years ago, we didn't have this.
Yeah.
But we definitely have it now.
Yeah, it's interesting, and even the point you shared is not even the worst it can get
Exactly.
with how it can be used to hurt other people or help other people, and so yeah, we're in a wild time, and it's going to require a lot of wise thinking and wise actions to move forward.
I agree. One thing that I've thought of, and I don't know how far this idea can go if it's in process or not. I recognize the value that AI does bring forth in certain spaces in terms of helping people to write, but it also takes away like younger people's ability to critically think. If you have a system writing for you, these are not your thoughts technically, right? This is something that you generated. And if you're going to do that, I think you need to make it known that this is a generated product as opposed to this is an original idea that I formulated and drafted, right? And in the academic spaces, because I am in school currently, that is coming up where you see other people using AI generated assignments, and it's like, okay, but we're here to learn something and actually practice doing something. And if you have AI doing it for you to this degree that it's not in your voice at all, and I can tell it's not in your voice, that is a problem. Because what are we producing for future years, future jobs, future industries if I don't know how a car works, but yet I've written a paper that's 20 pages long based on AI generation that tells you how a car works. And someone asked me, well, what about page 7? what about it? Because I didn't write it, so I couldn't tell you what's in it. And we have to be more conscious of representing knowledge in our person and not just a product that we put out on paper or in video or on the internet, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting how these tools are becoming so pervasive that they are touching every single industry and market.
Yeah.
And like, you're very clearly knowledgeable about it. I have to use AI in different systems as well.
Yeah.
And so can definitely talk a long time about that.
Yeah. But to sum that up, it's more so my issue on social media because
Gotcha.
people's attention spans are so short
Yeah.
that you only have milliseconds really to grab their attention and give truthful, accurate, up to the moment knowledge that you can give. And oftentimes, I don't know that I question it. I can't say frequency, but I question how often that is happening, right? In terms of just how many people, millions upon millions of people using these different platforms. And there's not many that'll correct themselves and come back and say, I posted a video yesterday about blah, 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 and I was wrong. Here's the real information. I don't know how often that happens.
Yeah. And it might not happen, but to share on the benefits of that, like that character trait goes on and offline. And so you take that into every relationship that you have, and just as much as you take into every relationship maybe a more manipulative or half-truth approach online.
Yeah.
You take that exact same character trait
Absolutely.
everywhere you go. So it's like, what are you working on right now? How are you presenting yourself online right now? Because that is a window into your person.
Yes.
And your ability to form real relationships outside of the digital space and operate businesses and just normal human to human interaction. Like it's the same across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Nikki, I want to wrap up here and just thank you a lot for coming on here and talking with me, sharing about your business. It was one thing I truly love bringing on owners is hearing what lessons that I can learn from these owners and implement. And so, you talking about these systems, but also talking about how you just genuinely care for the people that are working with you. It's very encouraging to me, and want to take and apply that. So I appreciate all of your insights here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Cannon. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Could you share with our listeners where they can go to learn more about the business, get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So our website is www.solace, SOLACE, Chateau, CHATEAU.com. And our email address is info@solacechateau.com as well. And all information can be found there, including contacting us.
Love it. Nikki, thanks so much again for being here, and looking forward to getting to talk with you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Cannon.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.